I am Rachel Durr, and I recently went on a short-term mission trip through Bold Hope to Belize in partnering with Next. My husband and daughter went last year, and I knew it was a good thing to do. I didn't feel particularly called or compelled or passionate, but I went. Now I see in retrospect that the Holy Spirit cleared the path for me to go because he had a greater purpose. I knew there would be stresses, travel, finances going into it, food, heat, 31 people of differing ages and personalities. So my goal in going into it was to not overthink and not get in the way of what God was planning to do. There was a VBS, and we were able to teach children about Christ and play games and build relationships with them. We worked alongside locals in the community to build a bus stop and refurbish a basketball court. We made some progress on the church construction, and we led worship alongside the town, and we also walked around meeting with people, getting to know them and their life, and praying with them and asking them if they knew about Jesus. We would go up to the perimeter of the properties and call out and ask if they had some time to chat with us, and we would ask them if they know Christ and if there's any way we can pray for them. And one family in particular will stay with me for the rest of my life. There was a mom, there was no dad in the picture, and there was a little boy. He is my son's age. And as we were talking for about 20 minutes, I think it was, the 13-year-old boy clung to his mom's arm and hid behind her. And as we were talking to them, I said, "Is there any way we can pray for you?" And she said, "Yes, you can pray for my son, Samuel, because 2 years ago, he was a normal, healthy boy, social and well-adjusted and smart, and he started having night terrors, and he stopped talking. And we felt there was something at play there." And I put my hands out and I said, "Samuel, may I pray with you? May I talk to Jesus for you?" And he cowered in fear. He recoiled. And I knew there was something awful that boy was struggling with. So I said, "Don't worry, sweetie, I'm not going to touch you. I'm just going to pray for you in Jesus' name." And we prayed over him. And he's been on my heart. And I look forward to next year going and seeing what God has done in his life and helping him to feel a peace that we don't understand. I also saw, when I stopped thinking about me, when I stopped thinking about my society, my material needs, all the things that come with being here and being home, and I focused completely on the Lord, I saw things I've never seen before. I had a confidence in him that I've never had before. I was unabashed in prayer and laying hands on people and serving and talking to people that I wouldn't talk to because I'd be afraid. When people ask me about how the trip has impacted me spiritually, the only thing I can say is that it's life-changing. I can try to articulate how my behavior, my actions, my thoughts have changed, but I'm a different person since I went.
So we're going to hear more about Belize from my two friends up here, but before I do, I just wanted to give a quick history lesson. How did we end up in Belize? So how we ended up in Belize, 2 years ago, our mission team was wrestling and seeking God's face, and some of the criteria that we were looking for in a place to actually partner with, we wanted to go to a spot where there wasn't a Bible-believing, gospel-centered church. We also wanted to go to a spot where there wasn't a whole lot of other churches there. That's already been saturated with a lot of other ministries and organizations in that spot. And we also wanted to find a spot where we weren't just bringing the gospel, but we were continuing to meet felt needs as well. So 2 years ago, we sent a small team of people from our missions team, and I think Pastor Joe was part of that. And here's what I loved about it. You go down there, you start meeting people, and while you're there, you start praying. And as they were there, they said, God confirmed, this is the spot that I want next to take a step with. So we partnered with Bold Hope to make Belize our spot for a while. And it's just been exciting. Last year, we took a team of 20. I always get this number wrong. 20? Is it 20? I even led last year. Golly. We took a small team of 24 last year, and this year took a team of 31. Ages from 14 to 70, is it 72? Is it, Barb's at 72? 14 years of age to 72. And what you're going to do is actually hear what happened in their lives. So Amanda, I know you, but pretend they don't know you. Give us your name and why you went to Belize this year.
Sure, yeah, so.
Should be on. Yep, you're green.
My name, that was loud, okay. My name's Amanda Kolb. Like Ryan said, I went to Belize last year. I had a lot of transition happening with my career and everything, and it was one of those things that I was like, okay, I feel like this is the time that I should go because everything's changing, so I'm just gonna go with the change. And I had such an incredible time last year that when I heard that we were going back, I really wanted to go again. I just think it's such a unique and cool thing to go back to the same spot year after year because you can really build those relationships. And I did VBS last year and this year, so I loved that I got to see the same kids and they remembered us. But yeah, I just felt like last year was so incredible. That's kind of what motivated me to go again this year.
Cool. And I got the same question.
Yes, sir. Good morning, church. My name's Anthony Williams. I've been coming to Next a little bit over a year now. The reason I went on the trip was I actually went on a mission trip before, back in 2010. I was 15 years old. And God planted the seed then that, missions was going to be something that becomes a big part of my life. And so this year when I heard about the opportunity, my brother Matthew and I had a discussion, and we were always talking about it even before that. Hey, man, if we get an opportunity, let's go on a trip. So when it presented itself, I think we waited to the last minute a little bit, and we gave each other 2 days to pray. And I think we already knew we were going to go, but we wanted to still turn it over to the Lord. We prayed, and we felt like he was calling us to go, and so we decided to do so.
That's awesome. A lot of times we think about going on mission trips like, oh, can I do that? It's going to be uncomfortable. At times it is uncomfortable, right? So can you share with us, Amanda, what was the most stretching part for you? How did God stretch you the most on this trip?
Sure, yeah. So I helped lead VBS last year, did it again this year, and Erica Wolf and I did a ton of prep for it. And we knew that the kids were still going to be in school this year, and when we do VBS, we do it at the school. So we're in the classrooms and in the field area outside of the school, but we tried to prepare as much as we could. And then we got there, and it just was not how we planned it to go at all.
So wait, in the mission field, you didn't go as planned?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
not even a little.
Okay.
But everybody, the team was awesome. Everybody went with it so well. But I personally, I like to have a plan, and I like when things stick to the plan. And really nothing about VBS stuck to the plan this year. So that was a big stretch for me to just try and embrace it and go with it and make the best of it.
Flexibility.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
And same question for you. What was your most stretching moment down there?
So the most stretching part for me was definitely something we called visitation while we were down there. So basically, we would go door to door. You would give a greeting. People would allow you to come up to their doors, speak to them, and that was our opportunity to share the gospel with them and get to know them a little bit and ask them, is there anything we can be praying for you for? Now, typically, public speaking is not something that makes me very nervous, but for whatever reason, this terrified me. The idea of just going up, randomly knocking on doors and saying hello and then getting into preaching the gospel. And I waited to the last moment with that too because I was scared pushing it off. And I went out with Pastor Joe and Kaylee, Cole Harrison, and my brother Matthew. And Pastor Joe went first. And so I'm like, all right, great. So I get to see a great example of how to do this. And he does it, very well. And then he turns to me right after and says, "Aunt, you're up." And I was like, hold up. I didn't volunteer to go next now. Why am I going next? So I was a little scared. But in that moment, I just felt, God was telling me, that I don't call the qualified. I qualify who I call. And so at that moment, I had to put my full trust in him because I was so uncomfortable. And I felt like the Holy Spirit just tasked me to plant a seed, and that's it, and he'll water it. But just share, the good news about, what I've done. So we went up and talked to Miss Nancy, and that was kind of my time to speak to her, get to know how we could pray for her. Kaylee laid hands on her, and we prayed for her hip. That was really bothering her. So that was very stretching, but also one of the most rewarding parts of the trip as well.
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's two other young guys here, and they don't know I'm going to do this, but if you want to talk to them, I wish you could hear the entire team. But there's two young men that did the same thing that really stepped out in faith, and that's Harrison and Cole. I got to hear a little snippet of their story, how God stretched them and how they just stepped in obedience again. Just because they're not up here, find these people. Find them. Ask them what God did and listen to their hearts of obedience. And they were so excited to talk to people about Jesus. So that was really cool. Amanda, what are some other things that you guys did in Belize?
So we did the VBS in the morning and then had sports camp in the afternoon, and that was kind of how we reached the kids the most. But then I know like a lot of the people did construction projects and were like scooping concrete and stuff in the heat, so I give them so much credit. But we also got to do like 2 worship nights, which was really cool. So we went back to the village for 2 of the nights and like served the community dinner. We had like team members share testimonies, and it was just a really neat way to like interact with the community and to be a part of it. Yeah, I think that was most of.
Any other things stick out to you, Anthony? Tell us about the basketball court, because that sounds like it was a cool story.
Yes, sir. So Amanda pretty much covered it in terms of what we were going down on mission to do, and I think we all did a very good job of doing that. Refurbishing the basketball court, though, a really cool story about that was basically the worship night that we did was supposed to be on Wednesday. It got pushed back to Tuesday, and so we were kind of trying to work double time on the court to get it done Monday and Tuesday so that they would have it before to use, the people of Georgetown would have it to use before we left. And so we worked double time, we got it done, and then Tuesday night when we actually came to set up the worship night, we were showing a movie and serving food and such. And when we got there, and even throughout the night, you could look over and see the people of Georgetown running 5-on-5 and actually using the court. You know, even the locals came in to help us power wash. We put up new rims, new nets. We actually one day had to put up a whole new backboard, which was a challenge on ladders, and it's heavy. You're trying to, you know, balance yourself. And it was so rewarding to look over and see them actually using it and doing something that has an immediate positive impact on that community.
That's awesome. One of the things that we like to hear about, too, is those God moments. You're like, that's only God. What was one of your God moments, Amanda?
So the first one that comes to mind is just the unity of the group. I loved going last year. I felt like the group last year clicked so well, and when we got back, it was one of those things last year that I'm like, man, I just don't think that could ever happen again. Like, there's no way a group of like 20-some people from all ages can get along this well. And that was my biggest point of like anxiety before the trip this year. And anytime friends and family said, how can I pray for you? I was like, just pray the team gets along, like that we can click and that it's not awkward or anything like that. And I honestly feel like this year it was better, which just, I could not comprehend that before going, like how it could have been better or how we could have gotten along. But I just feel like the team this year was so kind and genuine and caring about like how we were doing and what we were doing. And everybody was just so awesome to be around like for the whole week. So I feel like that sense of unity and just answered prayers was a huge God moment. And then there was one of the boys from the village who we really bonded with last year, named Gian, and he's like 14, and his social skills and his ability to talk to anybody just like baffled me last year, because I was like, this kid can do anything, like the way he can talk to people, this is amazing. But I figured he clicked with us because there were tons of churches going down there, and we were just like more faces from a church that comes and then goes. But this year, when I saw him for the first time, I had seen him at the worship night, or he saw me, and I just heard him shout, Miss Amanda, and I was like, oh my gosh, Gian, like, how are you? It's so good to see you, all this stuff. But the way he talked about us, and he kept saying, like, I didn't know it was the church. Like, the church is back. I didn't know it was you guys. I would have come day one. And it was so awesome, because it was like, it wasn't just that we were other faces, like we had left such a good impact, and he was so genuinely interested too in like learning more about the gospel. And like we were watching for the worship nights, we watched part of a video just on Jesus's life, and Gian had questions, but questions that he really cared about, because he would ask me and I would answer in what I thought was a good way, and then he'd look at me and be like, okay, put that in terms I can understand. So it was like he cared enough that he wanted to know. So I feel like that was just the impact that we left, was an incredible God moment.
Already seen those relationships get established from last year to this year. That's awesome. Anthony, same thing. What was one of your biggest God moments?
I would say one of the biggest God moments was, again, so on Thursday was the last day we were in town servicing the people of Georgetown, and it was the last opportunity to do visitation for some of us. And we had just finished lunch, and then torrential downpour just hit. I mean, just wicked rain. And it was actually getting to the point where we thought we might not be able to go out, because people wouldn't be, out and about in that type of weather. We didn't, know if we'd get a chance to do so. And right before we were getting ready to call it quits and, get back in the vans and head back, the rain just ceased, So that was definitely a big God moment, because I know he had more, work to do in and through us going into the town and being able to spread the good news about Jesus. And so that was one of the biggest moments that stood out to me for sure.
Cool. Lastly, when you go on a trip like this, you're like, oh, it was a really awesome experience, and you're sort of like, oh, look what I did. But I also know God changed your lives. So speak to us real quick about what's Amanda like now coming back from this trip? What did Jesus do in your heart and your mind now that you're back here?
Yeah, so I feel like with the unity of the group, that was such an answered prayer, and it was just something that for me is like, okay, God does hear us when we pray for these things, so it was just that reminder that he hears our prayers and he answers them and he'll come through for them. And then it also changed the way that I see like mission trips. Like I grew up in a church that went overseas for missions all the time, and I used to think like, why are you going so far? Like there's so much need right here in our community. And then I worked in Norristown the past couple years, and again, I've been like, this is my own little mission field. Like I don't ever need to go far. But going on this trip and not only seeing like the people in Belize, but also I feel like the way that it's helped me build relationships with people at church, and just like the way that, like Rachel said in the video, like I can't even put it into words sometimes, just like the way that I see things differently, and just now viewing it as like mission trips can be done so well, whether you're close or far, like they're all important.
Cool. And Anthony, the same thing for you. How's your life changed now that you went and you're back? What's God doing with you?
Yeah, so to kind of reiterate something that Amanda said, for me, it was just answered prayer. So going up into the trip, leading up into the trip, and just over the course of the past couple years of my life in general, I've just been praying like, God, what is it that you've called me to do? What is it that I've been called, crafted for, that you're going to use me, and how do you want to use me? And just being more open to that as opposed to trying to, kind of write my own script. And so getting there, I only got to do VBS in the morning, which is what I was most comfortable with. I signed up with Amanda the last meeting and training that we had here at church. Told her I'd like to do that, and I'm already comfortable with that. I've already had, experience with that. Got down there, and we were asked to be flexible while we were down there. Go, where you're needed. And so I did construction for a lot of it, just to help out with that. But I feel like God answered my prayer on the very first day in the morning when I worked in VBS. That that's where He's calling me, which is to ministry full time, but specifically sports ministry. And so having come back, just feeling like God really answered me, He heard me, and He showed me through this mission trip that this is what He's calling me to. So having come back, I've been taking those steps towards getting into ministry full time, seeing what that looks like, and I'm very excited about it, and I'm just grateful to the Lord that He answered those prayers for me.
Awesome. And then in closing, hold on, I got one more question for Amanda. For those of us that are out sitting here today thinking, I think I want to do that, but I'm scared. In one sentence, what would you tell the folks out there, like, no, God's moving, but I'm scared? How would you help them take their next step, Amanda?
One sentence, I would say, just do it, because I feel like it's one of those things, like, you'll get what you give. So even if you're a little nervous, like, you can definitely go with, like, your walls up and your hesitations and everything, but then I would say that'll hold you back from getting a whole lot out of it. Like, one thing, I feel like I put my heart and soul into going last year and this year, and it's so worth it.
So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know, but I'm scared, you heard it. Just do it. Guys, Amanda and Ann are going to be out in the gathering place. They got more stories. Track them down. Guys, thank you so much for coming up here and sharing your story with us. Would you love to hear more from them? Yeah, so would I. So go find them in the gathering place afterwards. What I wanted to follow up with, too, as we continue to talk about missions, we are headed back to Belize. In fact, again, what I liked about our teams is where we go is God has continued to create a culture in our body of prayer, seeking God's face, saying, Dad, where are you at? What is our next steps? While they were down there a couple weeks ago, they felt that God is calling them to say, let's go down and focus specifically to help get this church built. The nearest church is a couple of towns away, and they're just sharing teachers and leaders, but there's really no building yet down in Georgetown. So we have a couple of trips coming up in obedience for prayer and seeking our Father. So in January 5 through 11, taking these steps of obedience, this trip will specifically be a construction trip. You're going to go down there and just work with your hands and working on this church. So if that's something that you're interested in, there's a sign-up sheet right outside. After we're over here, go out and put your name on. I've been hearing this for 2 services. Is this a guy-only trip? The answer to that is, of course not. If God has gifted you, it's like, hey, I want to be part of this trip. I'm not afraid to work hard. I like the heat. I don't like the heat. But if you like the heat, like to work hard and work beside people from here in your own next family and down in Belize, sign up. It'll be awesome. And then once again, we're going to do what I call our all-inclusive trip, where we're going to do what you heard about in July next year again, July 6th through 12. That's where we'll tap the different ministries. So if that's you and God's spurring your heart to do that, there's a sheet right outside the door for you to get activated. All right? Now, not only are we going to Belize, there's other missions that we are supporting. A lot of these folks come from with our own Next body that has been a part of us. And I just want to share some other ways that we have Next have committed to partnering with people, not just financially, but in prayer and working side by side. So again, all of these things are on our website as well, but I just want to give you a highlight of what's coming up. First and foremost, this September, we have been partnering with Feed My Starving Children. This is an event that's held over in Pottstown, where you come together and you literally put meals together. So you can actually take your family, you can take your friends and work side by side, packaging meals that will end up with people overseas who cannot afford to have meals, or this might be their only meal every once in a while. Again, that is on our website. If you want something really cool to do with your family in the fall or as a community group, please go and sign up for that. It's just a great event to work side by side. That's Feed My Starving Children. We also have partnered with several other people, and I just want to highlight these folks as well that we as Next have gotten behind that are committed to full-time missions. The first couple we're going to look at is Garrett and Kylie. Kylie was actually raised in our church when we were back at the 4-H, and she actually found a guy and got married. Here's where they're at. They are out in Phoenix, Arizona, working with refugees. Now, back in the 80s, when I thought of going overseas, it was always go. There has been a shift now in missions that a lot of the refugees and stuff God is actually bringing to the States. And I've been talking with other organizations as well. There is such an influx of refugees coming to America that they're in our own backyard. What Kylie and her husband have devoted their lives to is meeting with these refugees from Afghanistan, in Afghanistan and other Muslim nations. What do? They are with Go10, and they are doing English as a second language, just creating relationships and helping them get connected in their own backyard. So Kylie is one of those folks that said, I want to do this full time, and her husband is doing it part time. Again, they're within the States, reaching people that God brought into their own backyard. That's Garrett and Kylie. The other young lady that we've been getting behind at Next is someone that I know very near and dear. This is my daughter, Megan. Just want to take a pause here and talk about when we take short-term mission trips, when you go, don't be afraid to go as a family. What I have seen for many years now is when families go together, and if God puts something in a young person's heart, my daughter got the bug when she was this big when we went as a family to Haiti. I didn't know that. Her father God did, but we got her in a spot where we started seeing her grow. And Megan's like, I want to do this. God has called her to full-time mission. So she is with Youth with a Mission out in Lancaster right now. They are passionate about seeing people fall in love with Jesus and be missional, not just overseas, but in their own backyard. She is currently working to equip and employ and get folks in the mission field full-time. And she is currently leading a team down in Costa Rica. So Megan is also one of the folks that we as a church body are behind. as well. And then lastly, another young lady that I've got to watch grow, starting with short-term missions, is Steph. Steph started taking trips with us to Haiti, and God just started working on her heart. Steph has such a heart for people. She will serve in any capacity, from doing basic care needs to sharing the gospel to praying with people. Whatever needs to be done, she'll do it. She also spent 3 weeks in Guyana back in 2023, where she helped lead seminars, worked with disabled people. And again, as she is taking each step of obedience, she is responding to God's call on her for full-time mission. She is now partnering with Pioneer, which is a missionary organization that's going to equip her for full-time mission. So I want to give you guys a bigger picture. If you're new to Next, our heart is for the local community. You know that. But God also says if you would go to our website, we want to see the world. And these are just a few of the ways that God has called us, his Next family, to step into missions both here and internationally as well. So that's really cool. So that's what's going on. I have one more couple I want to have come up and share with you that got to go to Haiti, went to Belize as husband and wife, and they're going to speak to us more about what it's like for child sponsorship. Bold Hope is a big proponent. One of their avenues they want to go down is how do you equip and how do we minister to children through child sponsorship. So I'm going to ask that you watch the monitors again and listen to what it looks like to sponsor a child through Bold Hope. And then we're going to hear from a great couple as well.
Simona, a single mother of 8 children, was born and raised in Batay Bador. Life in the Batays is tough, unfair, and isolating. In spite of this, she has experienced the life-giving power of hope in the midst of hard circumstances. Simona didn't have sufficient funds for daily bus tickets to get her twin daughters to school. Because of this, the girls had to live with a relative in town. Thanks to the Bold Hope sponsorship program, their daily bus fare has been covered, helping keep the family together during the week. They are also able to take part in other activities provided by the sponsorship program, such as Bible and English classes. The child sponsorship program provided legal assistance to get all of Simona's kids their birth certificates, which will open doors for higher education and job outside of the sugarcane village. Their future is looking brighter thanks to their faithful sponsors.
Sponsoring a child through Bold Hope is different from other child sponsorship programs. We have a holistic approach towards our ministry because we believe that behind every child is a family, and behind that family is a community. If you zoom out, it becomes clear that brokenness in a community and brokenness in a family affect the most vulnerable person of any society, the child. If communities are strengthened, children will reap the rewards.
When you sponsor a child, your monthly donation ensures that the child has access to things like food, schooling, and healthcare, the things the average person thinks of when they hear child sponsorship. However, child sponsorship at Bold Hope supports our family empowerment program, which aims to fortify the community by supporting initiatives like savings programs, skills trainings, adult discipleship, parenting classes, health education, and legal documentation for mothers.
We fully understand that without a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, there can be no real hope despite improved circumstances. That is why we count walking alongside families and pointing them to Jesus as our greatest joy. Child sponsorship is a way to give to the ongoing global work happening day in and day out. Your sponsorship doesn't just ensure that today's needs are met. It's an investment in a child's whole life and generations to come. Go to boldhope.org/sponsorship to set up your monthly giving today.
So we're going to actually hear from a young couple here, Alan, Barb, Snavely. I got to tell you, I've had the privilege to watch Jesus grow you guys over the last 4 years, and God's just grown you more than just in missions. I remember being on a roof with you probably 3 years ago. Al's a roofer by trade, and from that moment on the roof to have you sitting here and sharing with these people what God's been doing in your life, and actually to go overseas as husband and wife, and then Watch how he bonded your heart together to take another step of child sponsorship. This is what I wanted you guys to hear. We serve a God who is alive and active, and when you surrender your life, I've just been watching. I want you guys to hear what God's been doing in their lives to get them to child sponsorship. Thanks for coming up, guys.
So anyway, thanks for being, I'm really nervous, as you can tell. But listen, these kids of Georgetown are awesome. They come out, they've wrapped their whole bodies around you. They really love on us. They were unbelievable. They would look up and they have these big brown eyes. We just really wanted to sponsor after that. So me and Barb prayed about it, and God put it on our hearts to sponsor, a couple of these kids. And, it's been wonderful, and it was a great, great experience.
Yeah, so we were originally planning to go on a vacation with another couple that exact week. And Al would come home from work every day, and he said, "Did you sign up? Did you sign up?" And every day, and did it 3 days in a row, and I just said to him, "No." I said, "I didn't." I said, "God's just really been whispering in my ear, Belize." So we'd been talking about doing a mission trip for quite a while, and it just never worked out. And there was one earlier in the year that fell through, and so this was our opportunity. I didn't really want to go in the heat of the summer, but we did, and it was wonderful. Like Al said, it was a life-changing experience. So, should I go on?
Absolutely. Keep
Okay.
going. This is awesome. Keep going.
So every morning, one of the young girls, 14-year-old Izzy, was my helper, teaching VBS for 5 and 6-year-olds. This again was really out of my comfort zone because I've never been a teacher other than teaching my own children and my grandchildren, and as a nurse I taught mostly adults, but here I was with these 17 rambunctious kids in their last 2 weeks of school, so it was a real challenge. And I really did not feel equipped, but I learned that God does not call the equipped, he equips the called. So despite my lack of teacher skills, he did give me a heart for kids. And those little faces, every morning we'd pull up in our vans, and their little faces were smiling and waving at us, and we'd walk in the classroom, and they were just so excited to see us. And those memories of those little smiling faces waving, they're etched in my mind forever. They were just, I could close my eyes right now and I can see them, "Hi, Miss Barb." They were just so excited. One little boy was 6-year-old Javon. I know you can't see him very well, but this is Javon. And Javon loved to talk, and he had a little mischievous twinkle in his eye, and he was usually a little naughty, but he just tugged at my heart. And one day I saw him, he was sitting there with his leg crossed, and he was pulling on the sole of his shoe, and it was, exposing his foot and everything. And I just wanted to go out and buy him a pair of shoes, but, I couldn't do that. And this is such a remote village that there was no place even to go buy shoes. So there was also a little girl, Keisha. This is her. She's 6 years old also, and very quiet, very soft-spoken, but, she was so sweet. So I didn't really think about sponsorship at this time because we already had to, but on Thursday evening we had team time, and Bold Hope played a video about sponsorship, and they showed these pictures. We passed them around the room, and there I saw Javon looking at me, with his little face, and I just knew I had to sponsor him. So I took the picture, and Al and I prayed about it, and we agreed to sponsor him. And when I came home, I was on the Bold Hope website, and I was looking at the different kids in Belize, and I must have missed her on Thursday night, but there was Keisha. And, they both have the same last name, Valerio, but I think they're cousins, maybe. They're not siblings, but it was interesting to me they both had the same last name. But anyway, I saw her photo on there, and so I talked to Al, and we decided we would sponsor her as well. We have 2 other children that we sponsor through Compassion International. One is 17, and the other is, he's in Haiti. And the other little boy is 9, and he's in Guatemala. And those children I get to write letters to, and they draw pictures and write us letters back. But going this way through Bold Hope and being able to go down to Belize and see these kids, and spend time with them and get to know them and really develop a relationship other than a written relationship is just so precious and priceless to me that we were just so excited to be able to do this. And I look forward with great anticipation of going down again next year, maybe in January and for sure in July, to just go down and be able to see these kids again and give them hugs and, just know that I'm helping to take care of them. We are helping to take care of them. Only one other thing I wanted to say
Go ahead.
was, in our area here in the United States, when you see kids going to school now, every kid's carrying a water bottle. It's like common, you just take a water bottle to school and you can drink water while you're in the class. And we were in the heat of the summer, and there was only 2 children in that classroom of 17 kids that I saw had a water bottle. So something simple as that, and that's probably, those children were probably sponsored. So it takes five people to complete a full sponsorship. One person can do the 5, but maybe one person takes a fifth of the sponsorship. So when we took the little girl Keisha, we were her 5th sponsor, and we were the 3rd for Javon. And then last night, Saturday night, Javon's sponsorship was completed. So he's fully sponsored, and I think that there's 4 more I think I saw out there on the table that aren't completely sponsored.
Awesome. Anything else to add to that, Al?
No, I mean, just that the kids are awesome, and I'm glad we got to sponsor them, for sure. So anyway, so this being our first missions trip, what? Huh?
Married couple, did you notice that? Yeah.
There?
Y'all that married can relate to this, right? No, you missed a spot there.
Okay.
You want the chocolate
Okay.
chip? Go ahead.
So I believe as a church, together we can make a huge impact in these children's lives, with our prayers and our financial support. I'll definitely be praying for, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Jeez. I'll be praying that God will place the children of Georgetown on our hearts. And I have 2 readings here, one from Isaiah 58:10. Feed the hungry and help those in trouble. Then your light will shine out from the darkness, and the darkness around you will be as bright as noon. And then I have another reading here from Proverbs 19:17. Whoever was kind to the poor lends to the Lord. He will reward those for what they have done. That's it.
Thanks, guys. Barb and Al Snavely, nurse, roofer, and itinerant missionary speakers now. Can you give them a hand? Just to wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you for letting us flex this time to actually hear what Jesus is doing in our lives. So often we like to study the Bible, but for me, this is fun to actually hear how Jesus changes lives when you take steps of obedience. You heard this again and again throughout all of them, is just the importance of prayer. So if you're here and you're like, no, I need prayer, maybe you just need prayer to help you take the next step with missions, or if you're just struggling with something personal or the events that are going on, I might ask the prayer team comes up, and we would love to pray with you guys. But also in closing, there's some next steps for you guys right outside these doors. We have Bold Hope there. Go talk to them. If you can't sponsor a child, but you want to help learn more about them and support them, they have 3 events coming up. They have a golf outing for you golfers. That used to be me, no longer. They also have a fun run, if you like to run. That used to be me, no more. I think I'm in like the Denim and Diamonds gala where you just go and have a meal and bid on stuff. Does that make me old? All that stuff is out there. Also, if God's spurring your heart, like, hey, Belize, I would love to do that next year. We have a sign-up sheet out there. Take those steps now. So in closing, I just want to say thank you so much for letting us flex this Sunday for you guys to hear that Jesus is alive and active, just not here, but overseas. Enjoy your Sunday, and if God's putting your heart on for prayer, come up here. We would love to pray with you guys. These guys will be over in the gathering place, pick their brains. Cole and Harrison, you're on point now. I'm not going to call you up here, but Cole and Harris are going to be over there, and you can hear their stories as well. Have a great Sunday, guys.